It's Shannon.
Hello, and welcome to Keeping It Real with Shannon Live.
It's Shannon.
Because you don't know how it's going to turn out.
It's Shannon. It's Shannon.
My kids empowered me to get out.
What's going on with this remote learning and in the midst of COVID?
Working for different elected officials, learning and understanding how to put the community first.
Hello, and welcome to Keeping It Real with Shannon. Welcome to the show tonight. Hello, ladies.
Hello. Woo.
Are you doing good tonight?
I sure am.
Well, look, we just got off from Father's Day, and we hope they had a good and wonderful, blessed day.
Yes,
We're going
indeed.
to continue to talk about the fathers tonight, but we're talking about them in a different way tonight. But we have a special guest coming on that's going to help us put in perspective about fathers and their being responsibilities toward their children.
Absolutely. So our special guest tonight is Derek Phillips. He's the CEO and founder of Real Dads Network, an organization that is committed to strengthening the institution of the family by promoting the positive aspects of fatherhood in all media. He is retired. He's retired in 2019 as an assistant principal for the New York City Department of Education. Let's welcome Derek Phillips to the show.
Hello there, Mr. Phillips.
Hello.
Hey, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. I see, man, you have something in common. You work for the Board of Ed. I work for the Board of Ed also.
Yes.
You
I
was
did for
assistant
a hot 365 days. That was it.
Nice.
hot 365
Great
days.
experience.
What school was you AP at?
I was AP at Queens Academy. It was a transfer.
Oh, okay, then wonderful. Well, you know what? We're just so thrilled to have you on tonight to kind of talk to us about a little bit about our men. We're not going to really tear them apart tonight. We're going to stay positive. Because, we always like to uplift our men.
Uplift our men.
We want to uplift our men, but we still want to talk about some of the behavior of some of the men. But before we get into those hot details, could you tell us about, why you started Real Dad Network and what you actually do in the network?
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me this evening. Real Dads Network is the outgrowth of a documentary that I did in 2000 called Real Dads, Black Men and Fatherhood. And Real Dads, Black Men and Fatherhood was the first documentary that was ever done that focused on positive Black fathers and had commentary by the late, great Ossie Davis. And the reason why I did that documentary is because when I was had two children, I have two girls, and I was very actively involved with my girls. I did the diapers, I did the bottles, did braid their hair, I did everything, with my girls. And people used to look at me and say, wow, he's a Mr. Mom. And I looked at that, I'm like, wow, that feels really great. I'm a Mr. Mom. It felt really good. But then I started realizing that I'm not a Mr. Mom. I'm a Black father who is actively involved in raising his children. So when we see Black fathers who are actively involved, we got to call them something other than what they really are. So I said I wanted to change that narrative, and people need to know that Black fathers are actively involved in taking care of their children. So as a result of that, I did a documentary, Real Dads, Black Men on Fatherhood.
So now, before you continue talking, let's take a look at a part of that documentary that you said that you had. So let's see some of that.
Life. It is so fragile and precious. No one can predict the outcome or path that a child will take. No one knows what challenges lie ahead, but if a solid foundation of unconditional love, discipline, caring, and understanding are laid, a child will have a fair chance at life. Parents, and especially fathers, can give direction to a child. There are many African American fathers who are standing firm and guiding their children through the mazes of life. Real Dads, Black Men on Fatherhood, is a journey into the lives of several African American fathers who understand the importance of being a strong father. These are the real heroes.
It's the ultimate commitment, and there isn't any such thing as, oh, I quit.
Being a father, it's not something you apply to do. It's something that you have to do. That's what you are.
Fatherhood is one of the most selfless, endeavors a person can embark on.
All the stuff he did, I did. I went to Lamont's classes, doctor's appointments. I took at least 11 books from the library about babies and all that stuff.
Being a parent, it's not about you.
There's different types of love, but the love for my children is the best love and the most important love to me.
Patience is really a key because he just doesn't know. And if I don't teach him, he'll never know.
There is no book to parenting, and it is trial and error. And I still don't know what works and what doesn't work.
Toughest challenge that I face is boys. That's that drives me crazy because I try to be, understanding, a modern father. Girls are gonna have boyfriends and all that.
We're always in the media as doing something that's not correct or whatever, but it's a whole lot of us that's doing the right thing.
African American fathers are taking charge of their families and changing the picture to reflect positive images. You don't have to look far to find African American men who are providing and nurturing strong relationships with their children.
Now this is the kind of fathers we want to see.
Absolutely. Good.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes.
Kudos to them. Kudos.
Yes.
It's always a pleasure to see young men, particularly young men of color, stepping up to the plate. There's no more being selfish, and taking responsibility, because you have a lot of kids that's out there that's fatherless, and they need that. They need that growing up with some type of father figure to give them some type of guidance. And the kids today that's coming up, that's exactly what they need.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think also too, it shows light that, within our community, it's an occurrence. I find it really hard to hear when you see a father with their son or their daughter, and someone's like, "Oh man, you're doing such a great job. Like, you stuck around." What was he supposed to do? What was he supposed to do? Like,
exactly.
Half of his chromosomes is mine. Of course, exactly. It's there. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Do you say that to a white father or, a father of another race? No, you don't say that. You know what I mean? So I honestly take offense when I see Black men being approached and they're like, "Oh my God, good for you. You stayed around." I'm like, that's too much of that norm.
That's too much of that norm that they being brainwashed with,
Absolutely.
And I think you said it when you said brainwash, because what happens is that there is this major statistic that's out there that says 70% of Black children are born to single mothers. So we hear that all the time, right? But the reality is that is totally 100% incorrect. Because what it really says is that 70% of Black children are born to unwed mothers. It just means that when they have the child, the mother wasn't married.
Exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't mean that the father is not involved. It doesn't mean he's not active. He can still be a part of the child's life, whether he's living in a household or not.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the things we do at Real Dads Network, which is to really change that narrative, because a lot of it is mindset. So when we see that dad who's actively involved, we're automatically thinking, "Oh, all these single mothers." Yeah, just because a mother is single, it doesn't mean the father is not even living around. It's just it's just not married.
But you know what that's about, right?
Mother means they're just not married.
But you know what that's about, right? Still putting that stigma on that Black family, Black male, giving the image that kids not being kids, not being raised how they're supposed to because they had the 2-parent household.
Right.
That's what that's about.
But see, that's how we get rid of the stigma, is because you get involved with your child. Even if you're not giving a child, even if that father is not giving the child the support or the money, that time spent with that child to me is just as important as that money you're supposed to be giving. Because if you don't take care of your child, you have somebody to answer to later. Somebody a higher power would take care of that later. But for the child now, it's better for you to spend that time with that child than to be arguing over whether you giving the money and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because you people will support you and help you take care of that kid. They will. If you reach out to people, they'll help you take care of your children. Because we have to always establish a village anyway. Because that's how we came up. We had a village that people would help out with your kids. They discipline them. And see, today you can't discipline kids, people's kids, because the first thing they said, well, why were you saying something to my child anyway? I'm trying to save them from getting killed or hurt or whatever, because then if I didn't say nothing and something happened to them, now you're looking at me talking about how come I didn't do anything. So you can't win. You can't win. You're supposed to want someone to discipline your child or say something to your child, because you can't see them 24/7. And we can get from that part so we can get rid of the stigma and get the men back involved and stop hammering each other. We can get rid of the stigma.
And a lot of it also is and that's one of the things in terms of Real Dads Network that we try to do as well, is that we try to give the facts. So the facts are CDC in 2013 did a report, right, survey, and their survey stated that Black fathers were more actively involved in their children's lives than white fathers.
Talk about it.
Okay, so that's documented. And then also, based on the research is very clear. 60% of Black children are growing up in the same household with their fathers.
Yeah.
That's statistically true. Yeah. But we focus on the negativity because that's all we see.
Exactly.
And then we misinterpret the documentation in terms of, 70% single mothers. Whenever we hear single mothers, the first thing that comes to mind,
she's doing it by herself.
But we know when you do the survey, right? You said single. If you're not married and you have the father living in the household, you're not going to put I'm married. You're going to put what? You're single.
But even when you give birth, they ask you if you are married.
Yeah.
They ask you if you're married when you're filling out the birth certificate paperwork. They ask you if you're married. So right then and near the statistical fact, they don't ask if is the father in the home.
They just said, if you say no, I'm not married, I'm single. Okay, so yes, you are a single mother. That doesn't necessarily mean the father is not involved. So I think for us, and what we try to do is that we try to say we have to go deeper. We just can't take things on face value. Because if we take them on face value, what it really does is that it really hurts us as a family. It hurts us as a community because we've violated misconceptions, and we're like, yo, Black men are no good. Black fathers are no good. We have some really good.
Hold that thought, Mr. Phillips. We're gonna take a break and come back and continue to talk about these fathers and get rid of this stigma. Because I have something to tell Allison. She need to tell the hospital when she in there. And if somebody else is in there. We'll be right back. We'll be right
back. It's Shannon.
Being a dad can be transformative, but also a lot of fun. Help prepare your little monster for the outside world. Encourage their interests. Support their growth. Walk them through new relationships.
He's perfect.
Whatever you say. And prepare them to stand on their own 2 feet. So much of the good in my life is because of you. Never stop being a dad.
Hi, if you're just joining us this evening, our special guest is Mr. Derek Phillips. He's the founder and CEO of Real Dads Network. Before we went to break, we was talking about, you being single and how the stigma is about how they feel about you, that, the father's not involved. But I think sometimes they do that is because if the father is not there when the child is born, they are making an assumption that the father is not involved in the child's life. And I think if more father would probably be there when the birth takes place, just to show support or whatever, that would also be good. But 2 is, even when the child is born, if the father's not there, to me as a woman, if that father's going to be involved in the child, I would just tell them when the birth certificate is time to sign or whatever, then you put that father's name down there on that birth certificate. So this way it lets them know, no, they have a father. The child has a father. He's just not here tonight or whatever. But you should make sure you put him on the birth certificate, because a lot of times the father's name is not on the birth certificate.
But why do we have to prove that? I mean, why do you have to justify, who's the father, who's not the father, they're present, they're not?
It's not a point of justifying. I'm just saying, if you have a child and that man is involved in that child's life, unless it's some reason that you don't want him on there, then why wouldn't you want the father's name on there?
Well, I thought that was automatic. I thought it was automatic. If he's involved, he's there. What cases they'll put his name on the birth certificate?
It's not automatic.
No, I mean, if he's not there, it's not automatic.
No, but I'm
saying
even if he is there, it's not automatic.
But it may also be by design. People may be receiving certain supplements with cases where the father can't be involved. So it all depends on what the.
Well, I said if it's a case that you don't want him involved, there's a reason. That's something different. But I'm saying if you want that child's name, the father's name on there, then just put the child's name on there. What is it that you're hiding?
Well, there's a few things, because one is when you're filling the paper out initially, you're going to have two things: single or married. So whether he's there or not at the hospital, you got to put one or the other. And if you're not married, you're going to put single.
Exactly. Absolutely.
No, but I'm saying even if you put singer, there is a place there that the father's name can be put.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, we're good.
You can put the father's name there.
When they read the statistic, they're going to say single mother born. The father's not. We assume that the father's not there because it's going to say single mother.
Right. It's not contingent upon if he's in a relationship, but it's based on how the statistics are on the form. Like
even if his name is there, as long as she is checked off that she's single.
Her status is single or married. Does that matter?
That's it. His name could be there or not. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Statistically, she is listed as a single parent.
Born, and the child is born.
Child is born to a single mother.
Child is born to an unwed mother.
Yeah.
Right. Even if the father's name is on the birth certificate.
Name on the birth certificate doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't change the status.
Doesn't change the status. Because statistically, when they look at certain information, they pick the criteria that they're going to look at. Yeah. So if she's married, then they're not even going to look to see if the husband's name is there. She's married. There's legal documentation that says she's married. If she's single, regardless of the father's name is on the birth certificate or not, she's still a child born to an unwed single mother.
Well, I mean, statistics may look at it that way, but I think the father's name still should be there, because when you when you see the birth certificate later, and the child might see it later, at least they see their father's name.
Bilotti, you're missing the point. The thing is, it doesn't matter if the father's name there or not. The statistics does not change.
We're talking statistics.
Rather than I
understand that you say they look at it as statistics when they're doing a survey. That's what you're saying.
Right, but I'm
not talking about the survey. I'm saying that when the child later may see the birth certificate or whatever, and they might want to know, how come my father's name is not on here?
I don't care. My father's name is not on mine. I could care less. I know who he is. You know what I mean?
Matters. Who is he?
Yeah.
You don't know what's
because that paper could say Santa Claus on it. I know who my daddy is. Well, you know what I mean? It's the man who raised you.
I'm old school. The name need to be on there. That's what.
Listen, ask me where my birth certificate is.
That's a problem. See, that's a whole problem with the society now. That's why we're in the mess that we're in now, and that's why this stigma is on us. Is because of people's attitudes about I don't need him, I don't need her, I don't need.
No, that's not it.
That's why we're in this mess.
It was there long before that. It was there long before that when the government required it in order for a woman.
It's getting
worse. In order for a woman to get welfare or public assistance, there could not be a father in the house.
Yeah.
There used to, and up until recently, you're talking about in the last 5 years, they were still doing home visits to check and make sure that there wasn't a man in the home. So it's not an attitude that women have. It's also things that were set in place to make sure that that family unit within our community never happened. So it's been a systematic eradication of that familyhood. You know what I mean? So it's not just like, oh, I don't need him. No, children need both mother and father.
No. We know you hear plenty of that. Women say they don't need no man.
No,
but we hear it all the time.
But we know it all the time. But we know there are systems in place.
Well, anyway, Mr. Phillips. Anyway, Mr. Phillips.
I would say, when I hear this term, when they say, woman says, I don't need a man, you might be right. You may not need a man, but your child.
But the child does.
Your child needs the yin and yang.
Right.
So you can say, I hate the father. I hate your guts.
Exactly.
Right.
I don't even want to see your face. That's fine.
Right.
But your child needs both parents.
Right. Needs
Exactly.
mother and father.
Life and have a better chance of success with both parents. And that's what all the statistics say. When both parents are involved, the child has a better chance. There's no guarantee of success.
Right.
Exactly. With one parent.
Exactly.
But Mr. Phillips, I want to ask you, with your organization, how receptive are the men in terms of wanting to be involved with their kids, and how do they come to you, or how do they know about your network?
One, we do a lot of promotion in terms of just social media, and then also word of mouth. And then when you come into the Real Dads Club that we have, we used to meet in person once a month, and then the COVID hit, so everybody went virtual. Yeah. And so we went virtual. We've been meeting every week for over 2 years.
Oh, nice.
It's 1 week. And the fathers the men that are there, it's incredible. It's like we cover every topic. Men dealing with health, men talking about the importance of going to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have issues, you need to deal with them, and the importance of just taking care of yourself as well. So we say you got to be selfish. You got to be able to pour into yourself. So this way you have the energy to pour into other people, to pour into your family. And
you can't pour from an empty vessel.
You can't pour from an empty vessel. And we have real conversations. We have real talk. Men are allowed, and we have this platform where you're allowed to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. You can cry, and if you cry in the group, you're not looked at. It's not a weakness. Crying is a strength.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. Going to therapy, if you're saying, listen, I'm going through a difficult situation, I need help. And you go to therapy, that's not a sign of weakness, that's a sign of strength.
Absolutely.
So absolutely. Platform where men are saying, you know what, I'm doing all these things that historically people looked at as being weak. It's not weak, it's strength. So when we talk about women and we tell men, if you're coming here to bash women, that's not what we do here. We don't bash women. What we're about is that we're about family.
Right.
We're about family. We're about children. We're about uplifting our families, our communities. So we don't bash women. And we say, if there's a situation where you're dealing with a woman that you feel is difficult, then you need to find a strategy on what you need to do. So if the woman is bashing you to the child, you don't go to the child and start bashing her.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So you don't do that. What you do is that you got to keep it in. You come to the group and you can just say, okay, I need some help. What are some strategies that I can do? Or you go to a therapist. So that's why, in terms of what we do, and a lot of people say, oh, wow, you're this father's group and you're going to bash. No, we don't bash women because it's about that. And we're all.
That's not the point.
Yeah. Exactly, because it works. It works both ways. That's what we said when I was talking earlier. It works both ways. The woman shouldn't be bashing the man, and the man shouldn't be bashing the woman, because even though he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, but yet still you act like he's a king to that child. You tell the child, your father's this, your father's that. You know what I'm saying? You don't do that. When they get older, they will learn what the father is, what he didn't do, and let them make up their minds for themselves if they don't want to be with their father or whatever like that. But they don't need to know that until they get old enough to understand what that means or whatever. Because because when you pound it in them little kids' head like that, first of all, it confuses them. Because if they ever spent some time with that father and became attached, and then they hear you talking about the father or whatever,
it doesn't make sense.
Confused. They don't understand. Like, why are you saying this? You were talking about my father. So don't say anything. Don't say anything. Let them get grown. They'll make up their minds.
No, they say, right? You don't have nothing nice to say. Don't say nothing at all.
That's it.
Talk about it.
Well, we say that, but we know what the deal is, and see, that's like Mr. Phillips said about the stigma. That's why we have so much stigma against us and stuff like that, because they just assume this is how we act or whatever. Because we do act like that sometimes. We do act like that. There ain't no sense in lying about it. We do. There's plenty of women that bash men, and plenty of men that bash women.
But let's agree. But let's agree with that's not the norm, though. Maybe within the neighborhood we live in, that's something that we hear. But within the group of women that I interact with, there are women who are married, there are women who co-parent, you know what I mean? And even whatever they feel about that other parent, it's never relayed to the child. You know what I mean? So that's not that's not the norm. Yes, there are groups of women that will do that. Yes, we all know those women, but that is not the norm. I know people who co-parent very well. I know people who co-parent
You
very
might
well.
know some women, and you say that's not the norm, but see what's out there is more of that's what happens, not more
Is
of
it
what the
really
norm
though?
is.
Just
And
because
that's
you live
how
by
all
the,
of this get out there.
I mean, listen, we were portrayed as gangsters and rappers and drug dealers on TV. That's not the norm. That's what you see on TV.
I want to ask you, how do your fathers deal with the relationship with the child's mother? They're not involved, and she has another significant other.
And I think I'm trying to think how many situations do we have like that. You know, at the end of the day, the dads that we have in terms of the group, and we have we have a WhatsApp group as well, where every day we're sending texts. We have about 75 dads on there. And what's very clear in the terms of the group, that it's not about you, it's about the child.
Right.
So in certain things that you may not have, certain skills that you may not have, then you need to learn those skills, and we have to figure out some strategies that you need to put in place, because it's not about, oh, she has another, you guys didn't make it, she has someone else. So now you got to figure out, okay, what do I need to do in terms of, because now the relationship has changed, and you're not going to be going against the man saying, you can't do this to my child. No.
Yeah.
What do you do to work together? Because now the family has been extended.
Right. It's blended.
Yeah. You know, so it's like, so you got to work together.
And that's when you have to play grown up, because whichever the significant other, whether it's the woman or the man, you have to be a grown up about the situation. Just because you might not like the significant other or whatever, but when it comes to the children and being a grown up, then that's how you have to be a grown up at that time.
Yeah, teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, we do have dads who are not involved. We do have dads, you know, not in the group, but we know we have some Black fathers who are not doing what they're supposed to do. But as you say, Alison, that's not the norm. So whenever we speak about Black families, we take the, you know, something that's the minor part and make that the major. Like that's the norm. That's not who we are as Black people.
Well, Mr. Phillips, we're gonna finish this conversation in our after show. So we want to thank you for coming on for this part of our show, and it's just been wonderful. You are doing a great job with the Daddies Network, and keep it up. And we're gonna try to get as many fathers pushed over there in that group talking as we can. So if you want to stick around for our after show, please do, Mr. Phillips. It will be my pleasure. After show, you'll stay with us on Facebook and YouTube. So remember, go and like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube. So we want to thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, ladies, and as always, we'll see you next time.
Today's show is sponsored by Abu's Bakery. If you have a sweet tooth, stop by Abu's Bakery for some delicious cakes and pies.
Do you like beautiful pictures for your home or your office? Then stop by Faith Watch Gallery. They have a large selection of pictures from around the world.
It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. Keeping it real. It's Shannon. It's Shannon. It's Shannon.
But thank you for sticking around for our after show, Mr. Phillips. I mean, you know, we get all excited, you know.
No, this has been great. This has been great.
When it comes to talking about men, you know, we get all excited about them, and we love them to death. We can't do without them, you know.
This has been great.
Can't live with them, can't live without them.
Exactly. It's just so much that goes on that it's just, you know, sometimes it's heartbreaking that we can't get along with each other, particularly when it comes to our children, because you see your children suffering, you see how it hurts them and everything, you know, and we still can't just give it up. and say, I'm going to do what I have to do to get along, even if I have to take the punishment of whatever. Because sometimes we just have to suck it in. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You have to suck it in. Do not say
Strap
anything.
that girdle up.
And then when the children leave, just go in the other room and beat up the wall or whatever you have to do or whatever. But because you want your children to grow up with some kind of
relationship,
family oriented, a way about them. So when they have a family of their own, they know how they want
it's supposed to look,
by their spouse or whoever they get married to.
Mm-hmm.
By example.
Yeah, because that's the only way it happens. You know what I mean? I grew up in a 2-parent household. One of those parents wasn't my natural biological parent, but my stepfather was my father. He was the only one I knew, and my mother and my father were married till death did them part. You know what I mean? And he was the one that raised me and my sister. He made sure we had a roof over our head, clothes on our back, shoes on our feet, and food to eat. So he may not have been brushing hair, but he was there. He was there. He was present.
Well, he was there. But so, it's just like when I was looking at a film that we showed with the documentary you did, and I was saying, like, when the child is born and you hold that child in your arms, how in the world could you walk away from something that precious? I don't care what the woman is doing or what the man. How could you walk away and not want to be involved?
Right, stalker button flip right there. Listen,
sometimes when we look about men and we talk about adults, but today in today's era, we have a lot of kids having kids. So that's another challenge to really get them to that adult phase of being responsible.
I mean, but you have to understand too that emotionally and mentally, when you have a child, that's where you stay. You're stunted at that point. It really depends on the people that you surround yourself with that kind of help you and grow you into that better person and better parent. You know what I mean? So if you had a child at 14, you're 14. It's hard to say to a 14-year-old, listen, you had a baby, you need to grow up. What does that mean? They're 14 years old. They don't go into a 25-year-old mindset. They're stunted at that age.
Right, but this is what I'm saying. That's my point. How do you deal? I'm not sure the age group or the minutes you deal in your program, but there are young adult men, young kids, not quite 18, but they need guidance as well because it's still a parent. It doesn't change the dynamic that they're not a parent.
Right.
How do you now teach them as well?
But see, that's where the men would come in at. Like, if you know of a young male that had a child that may not have that father figure in his life, but you a male figure yourself, then why can't you reach out to that young man?
Right. This is what I'm asking.
Teaching him, look, you have a responsibility now. So this is what you're going to have to do. That's what I'm saying. The men got to, step up to the plate now.
Right. This is what I'm asking.
They really got to step up.
A lot of this is what I'm asking.
And that's why it's important to see the model. Because what happens that we don't see it a lot of times, right? So we don't know. Like for me, for instance, my mother passed away when I was 10. My dad was never involved in my life. And I remember the night before my mother's funeral, I cried, and I'm 10 years old. And I said, if I ever have children, I'm going to make sure my children never have to go through what I went through. So, and in my children are 26. I have a 26-year-old and a 22-year-old.
Nice.
And what you look only 30 yourself.
Well, thank you. I'll take it.
That don't crack, baby.
There you go. It doesn't crack. But kids need to see the model. They need to see models because we're constantly seeing what fathers are not. And like I was on the show on Sunday, right, on Open Line, and we're talking, right, about, it's Father's Day. Everybody's celebrating Father's Day. We're talking about Father's Day. But what do we want to talk about? What about those absent fathers?
Right.
So we don't even celebrate.
Right.
The men that are doing it.
The men that are doing it. We want to just go back to, well, what about so-and-so is not doing this? They're not doing that. But we have a lot of models. We have a lot of good fathers. And I think it's important for our children to see it. So we do the Real Dad. We're the only organization in the country. For 13 years, we have a Real Dad's Week. We have a whole week of events where we celebrate positive Black fathers.
What week is that? Let me put it in my calendar, baby.
It was June 4th through June 11th.
I'm getting next year.
Family fun day at your park. With families just coming to the park, just having fun. We had a spoken word, father spoken word at Near Weekend Poets Cafe. We had a comedy night with comedian talent. We had a book club. Well, Sean Dove from Campaign for Black Male Achievement came to the club meeting. We had an award ceremony. We gave an award, $1,000 scholarship to a high school graduating senior. We gave an award to Leroy Bozeman. No one knows who Leroy Bozeman is, but he is the father of Chadwick Bozeman.
Chad Bozeman, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we gave our award to Chris Paul. So we're constantly promoting positive Black fathers. We do daddy-daughter dances. We've influenced directly Chicago, Philadelphia, Virginia, New Jersey to do daddy-daughter dances. We've given away over 250 awards. So we're constantly promoting positive Black fathers.
Right.
We have a fatherhood book club. We meet once a month with the dad's book club.
Right. Well, I'm so happy that you are doing it that way, because that's what we need to stick with. Even if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, we should talk about them like they're doing something good. Just to uplift them and give them that positivity. That sometimes we have to talk to them in a way that maybe they'll think what you're saying to them, and they'll want to do better. They'll want to do better. Because now you encouraging them and inspiring them,
We think we want to change the situation, right? But yet I want to pound you with negativity, but then I expect positive results.
Or you just don't say nothing. I don't got nothing good to say, so I keep it to myself.
But look, you always have something to say, so you still can say
to
something
you,
good.
Mama.
You still can say something good.
To you.
You know what?
I say it to you.
No, I still think we should say something to them regardless. You know what I'm saying? Because first of all, it shocks them when you say something to them. Even when you say something to them, we know they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But when you say something good, encouragement, a positive, is a whole thing when they say something back to you and stuff like that, because it shocks them, because they don't think that you would say anything, positive to them. And that's what we need to stay on. We need to stay on the positive side, regardless of whether they're doing what they're supposed to be doing or not. My thing is, I don't have no problem giving them a gift.
Yeah. But
I would make sure the kids give them a gift.
I want to ask, how do we deal with the male that have multiple kids or just all over the place?
Child.
Who are you talking about? Is you talking about that guy named with the N and the last name with a C?
You to blow it up.
I think a lot of that too comes back to prevention. And I think sometimes we spend so much money on after, right? As opposed to the prevention. So if we do a lot of that prevention work, we're teaching young kids early.
Responsible.
Yeah.
So, and then
what parenthood really means. It's not something you can walk away from.
What about the adult man that's doing it? He know what he's doing. What about the adult that's doing it?
There's
Nick
which one I'm talking about. He on TV.
But you know what?
Mr. Cannon takes care of all his children.
I don't care if he is taking care of all these kids. Why are you popping up all these kids with all these different women for?
Because he wants to.
Get out.
I'm not saying it's right, but he's there.
We're not even gonna act like what he's doing is okay, because it's
not the best. But Mr. Cannon is there.
You ain't pushing nothing like that. Just
be realistic. We know that's not the norm, and it's not a good.
That's not the norm.
But
we are building positivity. He's there. He's present.
I would say
we're talking about realistically in the communities that we live.
Oh yeah, that's not gonna happen. They don't have that kind of money.
Phillips has to say.
Go ahead, Mr. Phillips. I'm sorry.
Dondre Whitfield has a book out called Male versus Man. And he says that we have to make the difference. There's a difference between a grown male and a grown man.
Okay.
So we look at a lot of these grown males and we mistakenly think that they're men. They're not grown males. So man means responsible. Man takes care of his business. Man does what he has to do. As a grown male, and we do have a lot of grown males.
Absolutely.
That when we see them, we call them, oh, this man is not taking care of his kids. Well, they're not really men.
Right.
And there's a difference.
Well, that's when the responsibility comes. But what happens when you have a child? We understand there's some fathers and there's some daddies. There's a big difference in the role they play. But still, it doesn't negate the fact that they still have a child, no matter how we call it. A mother doesn't have a different name when she bears a child whether she's there for the child or not. But the men seem to have a different connotation of how they are perceived with the lack of their responsibility.
What do you
Well,
mean?
I think I froze for a little bit. So say that question again.
Okay, when a woman have a child, she's still a woman. Doesn't matter if she's a mom, mother, what case is. I'm just looking at the differentiation of your male versus a man. What makes him different, being a one who have a product of a child, different than a woman who has a different role as well.
Well, even if you're just because you have a child, it doesn't make you a mother. It doesn't make you responsible.
Right.
So we do have some women who are not responsible. We have some men who are not responsible.
Right.
Kids can produce kids, and that's what's happening.
Right, but what I'm saying is that the woman is still referred to as a mother. She's not referred to anything different that I've heard of.
Yeah, because society looks at, historically, there's always been this attack also, like when it comes to men. There's some differences in terms of how men are viewed. Even now, there's this, they have this thing, Frederica Wilson out in Florida, right? She had a bill that was called the Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys, that she was trying to get passed. And this whole thing stated that historically the federal government has created barriers and obstacles that have prevented Black men and boys from succeeding. She had the bill on the Assembly side. On the Senate side, Mark Rubio sponsored the bill on the Senate side. Trump signed that into law 2020.
Wow.
So right now, there is a law called the Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys. And this commission states that historically the federal government has created obstacles and barriers that have prevented Black men and boys from succeeding. So this commission their task is to look at what are some of the strategies and recommendations that they can put forth to change this, because historically men have been attacked because the society we live in is Eurocentric, and Eurocentric men at the forefront. So white men at the forefront. So white men said, in order for me to maintain my power, I need to attack the man, because if I attack the man, I'm going to get the family. So that's the mindset of a Eurocentric perspective where we live. So that's why the Black man has been historically attacked to the level that they have been.
Well, they were systems working is design how they're working now.
Oh, here we go with her design system again.
So, listen, Mr. Phillips, you don't agree the system is working how it's been designed to work. If you go back historically, talked about, look at the mass incarceration, when men come out, they can't get a job, they can't vote. How are they able to provide for their family? Look at the breakup of the families when you have a mother and child that's without the male. It goes back
farther than this. Exactly. Because like we had said earlier, the government instituted a system where if you wanted to receive care from the government, you could not have a man at home. And that's where that whole "I don't need a man" came from, because you couldn't have one in the household.
You had a man. You had a man, right? And the man was the government.
Right.
Exactly. So somebody else is another infinite.
I agree with you. The system is not broken.
It's working.
It's working.
Thank you, Mr.
Well, I understand. Look, I understand what you were saying, and I'm not disagreeing that the system is not designed to keep people back or whatever. What I'm saying is we now have to stop having these kids and not taking care of our kids. The men and women, we got to start doing some prevention to keep them from getting in trouble, to go to jail, so that way they don't have to come out where they can't get no job or can't vote. Because the first thing, you shouldn't be in there to start with.
That's a whole nother
what
show.
Are we doing to
That's a whole nother show, baby.
This starts from the home. This starts from childhood.
That's a whole nother show.
When they first born and all that kind of way. Because that's how we get to this. Is because the kids are not being disciplined like they're supposed to be disciplined and everything. Because nobody wants to discipline their kids today. They can talk to you any kind of way they want to talk to you. They have no respect for older people, whatever. Even the grown kids be talking down to the old people. They are talking back to their parents. They are killing their parents. They are fighting their parents. When have we got to the point now that the children think that they can just kill their parents and stuff like that? So
When
you know
we-
we have a problem that we're
when-
at this stage that the kids are not scared to kill their parents because the parents are scared of the kids. And I'm going to end on this note. When I
It takes a
become
village to
scared
be
of
the
mine,
child.
I'm going to Bellevue. That's where you better put me. That day that I become scared of my own child, I will be put in Bellevue. Because see, I'm from old school. I will stomp you, and I put that foot where it belongs. Because the Bible says, spare the rod and save your child. And I'm going to do whatever I have to do to save my child, because I am not going to let them get knocked in the head with the police or whatever. So, hey, that's me as a parent, okay? So I want to thank you for coming on and talking to us tonight. We have had some good insight, and I hope that the men that know about your program will try to get in the program. Particular, I want to help spread the word about the meeting you do with the Zoom, so the men that I know can get on that Zoom with you that night or whatever. I just need to get more information about that, the timing and everything. So I'm going to send it to the men that I know that's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So thank you again, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate
This
it.
has been a great conversation. Thank you.
And please let us know when you have any events that we can come to. Let me know, so this way we can come to some of your events that you come into. Not only that, so we can meet some of the men too. You know what I'm saying?
I'm single and ready to mingle.
Look at both of them. Look at both of them.
So we can meet some of the men too. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to blend in a family.
But let us
Teamwork
know when
makes the dream work.
you're having these things, and that way we can come and. I want to invite you to some of the things that we're having as well.
Yes, and I was going to say the same thing. You can definitely invite me to events as well.
You can bring some of your men with you, to my event that's going to be coming up soon. I'm a member of the Lions Club. It's an international club. I've never ever heard of the Lions before, and so we're having our 50th anniversary coming up in October. So I would love for you to come to that. So I'm going to send you.
Let me know, and anything I can do to support the work that you guys are doing, we are available.
Okay, thank you so much now.
Thank you.
I hope you'll come again. Thank you, ladies. And as always, we'll see you next time. I thank you. Hey, Kat, how you doing, Kat? We'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you next time.